Lee Camp.
Hey.
Hey.
Graham, make sure you don't sleep with the teacher at copyright school, all right? Don't make that mistake again.
How do you think I got through college?
And I think I speak for everybody when I say you need to do the green tea bit again because we couldn't understand it. So I think we need to start over with the green tea bit.
Nothing kills comedy like doing it over. It's like in a nightclub if you screw up the punchline and you're like, because if you try to do it again.
Oh man, have you ever had a show where the mic is like fucking up but like through the whole show?
Oh.
So you get to a punchline and then it cuts out and it comes back in and you make fun of that, but you can only make fun of that like 5 times before people are tired of making fun of that. And it just destroys everything. And the sound people are at the back going, we don't know.
Oh, we're just a comedy club. It's not like the microphone and sound system are the most important part of our business.
I remember when I was earlier in my career, I'd play colleges a lot. And one of them, their idea of a sound system, because it said to book me, it didn't have much in the rider. It wasn't like I got food or anything. It just said sound system, have a sound system. And I got there and they had the mic just piped through like the cafeteria, like speaker system in the ceiling. And you couldn't understand it at all. Really, it just took the sound of my voice, kept it exactly the same volume, but just made it fuzzy.
Oh God. Colleges, like between they put kids in charge of stuff and then usually some type of administrator that does not care. And yet they pay well. It's the most disproportionate amount of like money to infrastructure that I've ever seen in my life.
Money to competency of running the show.
Unbelievable.
I know we could talk about this for the next hour, but a lot of people don't know that like you do a club in New York or LA and you get paid $25. Like,
yeah. Oh God.
$25. You can't afford the cab to get there.
No.
And yet if you play a college, this is 10 years ago when I was doing them, they pay like $1,000 or something. And I was like, holy shit, I'm rich. This is crazy. And yet there'd be times where I'd show up. One of my favorites was I showed up and it's a massive cafeteria, probably held, 300 to 500 or something. But it's just a couple of kids there. We're setting up. It's before the show. I get there an hour before. We're chatting. Big stage, big sound system. We're chatting and everything. I'm kind of goofing off with them. It's like 3 kids. And then the time to start comes around and there's nobody else has shown up. And the 3 kids look at me and go, okay, man, you ready to start? And I was like, what do you mean? There's nobody here. And they were like, oh yeah, no one comes to these things. They were like, yeah, no one ever comes to these things. We just give you a microphone. Like it was like a therapy session for me or something.
And the thing about it, usually it's like someone on the activities board is a huge fan of yours and no one else on campus knows who you are. And it's just like these activity board comedy nerds are paying to hang out with you. And you're like, all right. And then like, oh, we want you, get there 3 hours early for a sound check. I'm not a band, fucko. Turn the mic on, have some idiot go check 1, check 2, ride the left. Like, shut up. I'm going to be sleeping in my hotel. And then we're all hanging. We're all going out to dinner after. Well, you are. I'm not. Like,
You're like, I've been traveling all day. I just got done with an hour of screaming through a mic. You know what I could really use right now is a dinner at the high school cafeteria. Or whatever.
With you all asking me questions about comedy. Like, that's not what I want to do. I want to, maybe if I'm lucky, find a Vietnamese restaurant if I'm lucky and get some pho. And then, but that's only if I'm lucky. More than likely, I'm going to hopefully find a vegan yogurt in whatever, if there's like an Albertsons or something that's open late. And then I'm going to go eat that in my hotel room while watching Sports Center.
As Doug Stanhope says, I'm drinking vodka mixed with blueberry yogurt because I ran out of mixers. Yeah, and I remember when I was in college, I was on the committee, and I brought the comedians, and it was a larger college, so we had like Lewis Black and stuff. And I remember being like, like we're like hanging out with him before the show, and I remember being like, why is this guy so unhappy? It's like, it's like he has to hang out with fucking 20-year-olds asking him dumb questions.
And they don't know, like they have nothing set up correctly or anything like that. That's why. And whatever, unless you went to but a lot of these colleges too, it's like, oh, it's great. So I got to take 2 planes and a 3-hour rental car ride to get to nowhere in the middle of state, like I remember going to what was it? South Dakota State in Vermilion, South Dakota. So we had to take 2 planes to get into the bustling metropolis of Sioux Falls, and then drove to Vermilion. And I'm like, well, it's a college town. We'll at least be able to get a decent meal. We're exhausted before the show. And, at least most college towns, they'll have an Indian restaurant. They'll have a Thai restaurant, maybe a pretty good burrito place. You're like, okay, yeah, cool.
Even though they're landlocked for 1,000 miles, they'll have a seafood place. And you're like, is this fresh? And they're like, yeah, real fresh. Right out. It's Alaskan crab. We caught it out in the fields. the Dakota fields. Yeah.
But I was like,
so every once in a while, those Alaskan crabs will wander through here.
Because I've actually had amazing Indian food in little college towns in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so, but not in Vermilion, South Dakota. And we ate at like a Taco Steve's or something. And it was like, I remember I was starving and I was eating these like vegetarian tacos. They just have put beans and cabbage in a shell. And I'm just eating that and drinking some horrifying, diet Pepsi or something. And I was just looking, and I was on the road with Doug Benson. So at least it was in like a big auditorium. We had a good crowd, but I'm just sitting there going, this isn't even food. I'm literally just putting space in my stomach to stop it from making noise. That's all I'm doing.
Then you started eating the in-flight magazine that you'd carried with you just to fill up the stomach.
I'm like, all right, well, let's after the show go to a gas station and I'll get a power bar or some kind of god awful thing.
Oh, those are the best moments of life where I realized that the gas station is where I'm getting my meal. And I'm like, and on top of that, I've been a vegetarian for years, and so it's like finding anything that's not the closest thing to vegetarian at a gas station for a meal is like a Kit Kat.
Yeah, it is. It's like, and you got to read the label on the Mountain Dew to make sure it's not the bacon flavored one that you didn't know existed until you got the.
Oh man, Code Bacon, dude! Code Bacon is the best.
Code Bacon.
I love a Code Bacon. Oh,
Code Bacon.
Well, Graham, you're in luck. There is no bacon in that soda. It is disconnected from anything that ever resembled meat. So.
Yeah, that's the upside. Yeah, that's the thing too. I'm a vegetarian as well. That's why I'm usually like, well, you can bank on an Indian restaurant in a college town or something, or like some Chinese food or something that you can like get some rice and vegetables and tofu or something. But man, when you're out of luck and you're just like, okay, protein bar and or just trail mix. I've had that, like trail mix, and then like some carrots in a bag, and I'm like, well, there's my salad for the.
Well, I guess these zebra cakes are gonna be my meal. I don't know how much protein there is in a zebra cake, but this is it.
Well, per my opening bit that got messed up, green tea, Edwin green tea. This brings me to my. You want to summarize all of what's wrong with America? It's Lipton's Diet Green Tea. Okay, here's why. So having been to these gas stations all throughout America, like you and I have, and any road comic has, and I really try to I used to drink Coca-Cola all the time, and I stopped, and I know Diet Coke is like just as bad for you, and I really try not to do it. Like when I'm really splurging and really tired, I'll go Coke Zero on the road, and that's when Ron Placone's like, oh my God, Graham is off the rails. So I try to, when I'm staying awake, drink green tea. It's really good for you. This is Itoin green tea. It's made from Japan. It's literally just green tea in a can. So Lipton's green tea is like lemon flavored green tea, and they put all this sugar and bullshit and artificial this and that, and it's got 1,000 calories and 50 grams of sugar or whatever. It's basically just green tea cola is all it is, right? So then, well, with this, we need a diet version. So they take out the high fructose corn syrup and just the sugar, and then they put in, aspartame and other, cancer causing, rat murdering material or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's diet. And
it's the stuff they scrape out of the pipe at the factory that makes tires. That's actually
yes, it is.
That's what they sweeten it with.
And so you're just swapping out like diabetes for cancer. Like those are the two options.
And if it said that on the can, it was like, do you want your cancer cola or diabetes cola?
Which one do you want? And then I'm like, I would love to go into the Lipton boardroom and go, hey, Lipton, it's a really good way to make diet green tea. Green tea, you fuckos. Like, how hard is this? It's green. You know what they did? This is going to sound crazy. They took green tea leaves, boiled it over water, and then put it in a can and made it cold.
Right.
Like diet. Let's look at this. Total fat. There's like almost no sodium, like literally nothing. There's no carbs. There's nothing.
Well, Lipton wanted to take out the sugar but allow their fans to still get the sugar burning throat sensation. Where the sugar is so strong that you feel like you've eaten fire ants.
It's this, and that sums up America. Like, it's just like all of the we spend, like, and we're going to get into it, like everything, like, well, we need the cops to have all the military. Well, if kids are getting shot in schools, and teachers should have guns. Like, no, just get rid of the guns and the war and the nonsense. Like, just make green tea, you idiots. No. Now we're going to package little guns for kids to defend themselves. Little kid size, fun size guns. It's just like, oh God, you guys are idiots.
I think if we put our cops on green tea instead of steroids, I think we'd be doing a lot better.
Yeah. How many Tokyo police officers are gunning people down? How often does that happen? Oh, they don't have guns there.
That's because they only are supplied with nunchucks. So it's there's less mass nunchucking.
Nunchucking is just like
it takes much longer. I mean, you can kill a guy, but you really got to work at it for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. There was another mass nunchucking today as a man got a whole body legal nunchucks on the internet and then went to his school. Well, folks, that was a pretty long government secrets preamble. This is Government Secrets episode 41 with Lee Cobb and Graham Elwood. Green tea episode.
And I think we're just we're going to see if we get to a second topic, but we're going to spend some time on and I know a lot of people wondering how do we pick our topics, and basically Graham and I we sit in a circle, which is tough with two people. We sit in a circle and we hold hands and we talk about things that make us cry, and then when we're really sobbing, that's when we're like, this is it. This is the funny. This is the hilarity right here. Yep, so today, Israel or Palestine.
Yeah, we're gonna get into I wanted to talk about basically the and I don't know where you want to begin with the slides and everything, the history of AIPAC giving money to politicians.
Yeah, I think well, let's get through. We'll get to AIPAC in a second. Let's. I don't know if I'm going to be able to line the slides up right, but let's just talk a little bit about what's happening. I mean, it's, yet again, it is it's the ongoing, Israel uses these settlements, quote unquote, to basically just take away land from Palestinians. And they've been, if you look at a map of how the land that Palestinians have called their own has decreased over the years since Israel was founded, which, by the way, happy anniversary, Israel. On this day in 1948, Israel is declared an independent state. So, and on this day in 1948, no one was upset about that. No one at all. Yeah, so some people are not fond of this day, that date. So, but they use these settlements to slowly take away the land from the Palestinians. So it's not like they just have decided the borders are done. They are constantly taking more land and kicking Palestinians off their land. And they do it with these settlements. They often have deals with quote unquote settlers that say, like, we'll give you a free, lot with a house on it if you're willing to live in this area that is basically Palestinian land, and fight with them so that you can. But we're going to send the IDF in to protect you. And so, yeah, this ongoing struggle, but it's things have caught fire again recently, and the way the media describes it as if it's a skirmish or it's a battle or both sides are fighting.
Conflict.
I mean, it's an obliteration every single time. Like, the numbers are so clear. It's Israel often kills thousands of people and the Palestinians kill 5 or something.
The statistic that I just heard this morning, I believe it was on Democracy Now! They were interviewing someone that's follows this, and it's currently 11-1. 11 Palestinians die at the hands of Israel for every 1 Israeli that dies at the hands of Palestinians.
Yeah, and that may be what's happening this time around. That even sounds low. I feel like it's more often like 30-1, but this time around so far it may be 11-1. And the other thing is, often who the Israelis are killing is they're bombing schools and shit, and so they say, well, there were human shields there. We couldn't get past the human shields, and it's like, you were bombing a school, assholes. That's not like. And they're like, well, we've almost gotten rid of all this human shields, so we think we're making progress on that front. Like, the human shields argument is the biggest load of shit.
Well, there's so much hypocrisy. First of all, like, if they bomb mosques repeatedly, and yet if a Jewish temple gets attacked or defaced, it's international news. We need to stop anti-Semitism. Okay, that's fair, but then they get to just bomb, and they're doing it during Ramadan, during High Holy. I mean, it's that's never makes the national news. That never makes the international. I mean, definitely in America, other countries cover this a little better, but America, it's always viewed. And I kind of had, because I didn't really study it that closely, so I used to have I don't know, both sides. And it's like, you when you start really seeing how the propaganda and the money is spent to ensure. And you see the language just in this last week from CNN and the New York Times, the way they just put that language in there to make it seem like it's complicated. It's 2 sides. There's a conflict. And it's like, it's not a conflict when an oppressive state is just bombing an open air apartheid prison, basically. Like, it's not, you can't have that.
It's like if I were to go down to the park right now and take on the T-ball team that's practicing there and say, that's a fair match.
Yeah. And just go down there with a bunch of big guys. And then when one of these little kids throws a ball at you, you go, I had to. It's funny. It's the same language that's used by the Blue Lives Matter people. They go into the cops go into the black community, go to a rally, and they show up armed to the teeth. There's all this evidence. They knew there was going to be 100,000 people at the Capitol January 6th, and they didn't have the same amount of military grade arms as they did the week going into the Chauvin trial in Minneapolis. And so it's like, they show up armed to the teeth. They incite, they're hoping for a riot. And when someone throws a beer can at them, they go nuts and tear gas and shoot everybody. And they go, well, we had no choice. It's like, and the same language is used. Well, he had a criminal record. Well, yeah, he was trying to pass a counterfeit bill. Oh, he was reaching into his pocket. No, man, you guys created, Israel uses the same type of language. Well, ties to Hamas. Well, we were just defending ourselves. Like you posted this hilarious tweet today.
Well, this is about a drinking game that even you could partake in.
Yes. This I could partake in. Tell your joke.
Well, this is the Graham Elwood drinking game. Since Graham doesn't drink, if you want to play a drinking game but remain sober, drink a shot every time a U.S. government official says Palestine has the right to defend itself. Yet, if you were to do it the same for Israel, every time they say Israel has the right to defend itself, you would be smashed.
You'd be drunk. You would be in and out of rehab.
So why is it when they make these statements, and they made a statement where one of them, it wasn't Biden, it was one of the others, said something about we want peace and security for Palestine. They'll throw in some language like that, but it's like, but why do you say Israel has the right to defend itself, but you would never say Palestine has the right to defend itself?
No, and then you're seeing videos of just Palestinian grandmothers just being attacked by Israelis like Germans did to the Jews in the 30s. It's insane. This is the thing that bothers me so much, is the language and the behavior is exactly like the Germans did in the 30s. But then the Israelis can which just shows you that I don't give a fuck what your religion is or what happened to you in the past. Human beings, when given the opportunity to oppress people, will, because the human race is a virus that needs to be fucking put out. Anyway, that might have been a little much.
I actually think that, I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely tendencies towards aggression in humans, but it's like, we came from apes, and there are large groups of apes that work very well together. And so it's like a lot of it has to do with culture and like nation states. Like nation states, it's a toxic idea. Like that we have to defeat these other people. Well, who are they? Oh, well, they were born on another line, across a line. So that makes them the bad guys that I want to kill and defeat. Like, you have nothing more in common with a fucking guy in Texas than you have with a person in Palestine, and nothing more different from them either. It's just we're told that, oh, we're in these little groups and this nation needs to hate that nation. And it's and actually this brings me to one of the slides. If you want to just share my screen, I can just put it up there. So this is Rachel Maddow, speaking of toxic nationalism. So this is Jeremy Scahill tweeted this out. He does stuff for The Intercept, and he did a search. It's tough to see where the search is. The search is the word Israel. And over the past month, Rachel Maddow has, and the computer, the website came back with, there are no exact matches for your search. He then did a search for Gaza over Rachel Maddow's show over the past month. And it came back with, there are no exact matches for your search. Meaning, and this was yesterday, meaning Rachel Maddow is not at all touching the Israel topic and defending Palestinians, talking about the genocide, talking about apartheid state. She won't cover any of that. However, if you were to do a search on that same page for Russia, you would find, 27 stories in the past 2 weeks about how Russia, ate her lunch or something. And so like that's what our mainstream media does, is they often, when these things are happening, when Israel is just crushing Palestinians, they just try and not talk about it. And then in the rare moment they do talk about it, and I can't remember if we have this slide, maybe. Oh, damn it. Anyway, it was Max Blumenthal. If I can't find it, I'll just keep going. But it was Max Blumenthal saying that, and it's something I've brought up on Redacted tonight as well. You can bring down that screen. It was something Max Blumenthal said, and I've covered on Redacted at Night, that when they cover Israel and Palestine, they say Israelis were killed by Hamas or by rocket fire or by Palestinians, yet Palestinians have died. So they'd say 5 Palestinians have died in the skirmish. And they say, 1 Israeli was killed by Palestinians. So they very clearly say who the perpetrator is when it's an Israeli who's died. Yet, as all of these, men, women, children, innocent people are being killed in Palestine and Gaza, they keep saying have died. This vague, who knows? Who knows who it was? Oh, maybe they tripped on a rock. Maybe they fell down some stairs. They just have died. And this is careful language. Like, it's done again and again and again. It's not an accident.
Yeah, it's deliberate. And I think and part of that is we've been giving them $3 billion for years, decades. I mean, there's that clip of Biden that's been passing around from 1986 where he's it's the best $3 billion we've ever spent. If we didn't have an Israel, we'd have to invent one. And so, but also you want to talk about AIPAC. Now I maybe bring up that slide that we have of the funding of the two parties, because they definitely favor Democrats over Republicans, but it's
it's up there now.
There it is. So look at this. So the blue is obviously the Democrats and the red is the Republicans, but they have no problem giving a fair amount of money to Republicans as well. That's why neither party is going to come out and say this. And you look at whenever there's, a Republican gets in the White House, like Trump, all right, they'll lean a little more they'll give a little more to the Republicans. And
I think the only reason I think there's even a difference that they're not giving to both equally is because they have some slight feeling that certain Democrats might start to turn against Israel. And so they fund the Democrats more heavily because they're slightly more concerned about keeping them in their camp. Whereas Republicans are, and really most Democrats, I mean, these are slight differences, but Republicans are so securely in the, fuck Muslim people, who gives a shit, blow them up, don't care. Yeah. And many of the Democrats are as well. But I think that's why there's even a difference at all in that funding. And something else people should know is that many of these evangelicals, like Pompeo, like Mike Pence, they quote unquote support Israel because they believe that all the Jews, meaning even American Jews, need to be in Israel for the end times to come about so that the Jews can be burned in a fiery hell. So their goal is to have Jews burned in a fiery hell, but for the meantime, they're helping them out, helping Israel out.
That's why they want them to take over Palestine so that they can wall it off, and then they believe Christ is going to return, and then they all get burned up. So the evangelicals are crazy people, like crazy. They're insane, and yet they control most of the Republican Party. So there's that. But also, I mean, and I think you make a great point of one of the reason it leans heavy on the Democrats is because there are more Democrats that are susceptible to going, wait a minute, this ain't right. And so, I mean, like Rashida Tlaib is openly, she's Palestinian, and she just gave a speech yesterday, I believe, saying this ain't right.
Yeah, and Cori Bush gave an excellent speech too.
Yeah, and I'm sure AOC is jumping on this bandwagon as well. So it's like that.
I'm not sure AOC is, because I think she's been equivocating, but I could be wrong.
Well, she is pretty good at that. And then because this actually, the speech that Rashida Tlaib gave, I was like, wow, that was powerful. And she's calling out the Democratic Party, which is like finally, and going in direct opposition to Mama Bear Pelosi, who gave that stupid quote or speech last week of like, we need to support Israel and make sure they have ice cream or whatever she said. So
okay, so she is, I just checked AOC's thing. She is retweeting Ayanna Presley's stuff about Palestine and others, saying that Palestinians are being told the same thing as black folks in America. There is no acceptable form of resistance. So she's basically letting others do the talking, but she is supporting Palestine to some extent.
Yeah, she's a full-fledged politician now. Just
yeah. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to let others say it.
Yeah, I'm going to retweet so it looks good on my timeline, but I'm not going to come forward and say it because I might lose votes.
But just to give a little more on AIPAC, AIPAC is an incredibly powerful lobby. As we're showing here, they give to both sides. They fund both. They own most of Congress, but they also own outlets. So they know that they can get harsh things written in the Washington Post if anyone dare speak out against Israel. And this has only started to break open recently, probably thanks to social media, because things like with Occupy, things get so heated and clear online that the mainstream media ultimately has to come, catching up the rear by saying like, oh, yeah, we should. We've been meaning to cover that. So it's been opening up a little bit in the past decade, but they had and continue to have largely such a powerful lock on even the ability to discuss these things. We did a segment on Redacted that airs tonight that about the social media, Palestinian feeds getting shut down, getting knocked off, people saying things about with Palestinian videos from Gaza that are getting deleted and called, whatever. The Twitter says it goes against their guidelines and shit like that. So there is still a large control over this, the talking points, what's allowed to be said. And AIPAC's been around for a long time. One interesting fact is that the whole foreign agent registry thing was created after World War II to, I think it was largely to have former Nazis, register as foreign agents when they got to the U.S. or whatever, former Germans or something. But AIPAC was told they had to register as foreign agents because they are the dictionary definition. They are Israel's lobbying arm in the U.S. And so this was back in the 1960s, and they were told, you have to register. And then JFK was assassinated. I guess it was his administration that was putting more pressure on them. And JFK was assassinated, and then no one again has ever pressed them to register as foreign agents. And now, instead of them registered as foreign agents, you have RT, a news agency, forced to register, which is hilarious.
Jesus. Can you put up that other slide about just showing basically how AIPAC works, just so the audience can kind of get an idea of how they do their influence? Well, we'll go over that slide in a sec. Those are all the politicians. This one, they lobby ensures military aid to Israel and kills and maims Palestinian civilians. They fund, organizes campaign donations to keep aid flowing, and shuts down debate, which again, we've seen this in the last couple of years. And that's why this last week or so, and Rashida Tlaib speaking up, is significant, because it might break the stranglehold that AIPAC has. Because you just brought up BDS. You were like, oh, you're anti-Semitic. I don't want to hear it. And and they host solidify support for apartheid through their conference attended by policymakers. So that's what they do. But let's go to that slide showing the donation amounts, just to give people, and I always say, follow the money, connect the dots, find the truth. So you see this amount of money. This is how much they give.
I stopped it, Graham, because you asked me to do something I'm not able to do, which is go backwards.
Oh, really?
I'm trying to figure it out.
Let me see if I got it on mine.
Oh, here we go.
I got it on mine.
Okay, if yours works. I don't know. Last time yours didn't work, but all right, I have it on mine too.
Okay, so I want to go to this slide here, showing all of these different politicians, Democrats and Republicans, getting the top one, getting in neighborhood of $700,000, 400, 3. I mean, this is like the lowest one of the top 20 is at $139,000 in donations. So if that doesn't tell you how much influence they have, that's why, well, that's exactly why Pelosi's like, Israel could defend itself. That's why Joe Biden is just dancing around this saying, well, you know, Israel has a right to defend itself, but both sides, you know, they'll just say both sides. It's just the same. Like there's a few bad apples in the police department. There's not systemic racism. It's that same sort of dialogue that is put out there.
Well, it's both sides, yet behind closed doors, they're not doing the both sides garbage, mushy mouth shit. So behind closed doors, it came out that the U.S. had stopped the UN from putting out a statement demanding a ceasefire. And the U.S. was the only 14 of 15 Security Council members voted for a UN statement asking for a ceasefire, and the U.S. stopped it.
And that's exactly, and that's that's the other thing too. The international community is like, wait a minute, they're breaking international law. Like when they're like, oh, Palestinians are getting evicted. Even that language is incorrect, because to have an eviction, you need to have broken the law. You didn't pay your rent or whatever, you're squatting or whatever. And they're like, that's not accurate. They're defying international law. They're committing war crimes according to international law. I mean, and yet America gives this, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then we block the UN from condemning what Israel is doing. America, again, is part of the problem. Always, as always.
we just want to be loved, Graham. That's all.
I know. It's a weird way to go about it.
Can you highlight my screen for a second? So these are some students at a university in Maine put up some messages like stop ethnic cleansing, free Palestine, Israel is killing innocent people. And now the police are investigating them for hate crimes.
Oh my God.
Because apparently you are not allowed to write the truth in chalk on a wall.
Wow. Hate crimes?
Yeah.
This is the influence of AIPAC. I mean, they spend money because all that money they spent. So we're just showing the big, like, members of Congress and the Senate that were on that list. But that filters down one way or another to local governments and police departments, and they donate to schools. That's why any school that's like, oh, we want to do BDS. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Right. And they've gotten several states, you know, Abby Martin and the ACLU are in this lawsuit where they've gotten several states to force contractors from out of state to sign something saying like they'll never support the BDS movement. So in order to get paid in that state, so in Abby Martin's case, it was Georgia. She was going to go give a speech. They were going to pay her. And they told her she had to sign something saying that you will never support the BDS movement. And she said, absolutely not. Am I going to sign that? And they wouldn't. So then they wouldn't let her work there. She had to pull out, and now they're going through the courts with Georgia. I mean, it's completely against freedom of speech. It's disgusting. God.
And they're acting the same way as just any big corporation or any big authoritarian government. And then they like to play the victim card as well. And it's like, it's why to me, it's all the more offensive. Knowing what happened at the Holocaust, they should be more empathetic, and they're not. They're actually worse. That just that drives me insane. I hate, it's like these stupid right-wing Christians that are like, Jesus, I believe in Jesus, and that's why I own a gun. Oh, really? Show me in the Bible where Jesus said you only need to own an AR-15. Show me where the fuck it says that. So is it Leviticus that says we need to bomb poor people? Or where was that? Where was that in the Bible?
Or how about I go to church every Sunday and I'm a CEO for a big bank?
Oh God, yeah, exactly. It's just like I'm just so fed up with the hypocrisy of the dumb tribalism of some people with their stupid brains, and just this like, well, if you're critical of Israel, you're anti-Semitic, and really,
yeah. I wanted to get into that. Maybe we should play a round of, is it anti-Semitic? For those of you still wondering, And, we're allowed to do this segment because I'm Jewish by birth, atheist by choice. But, unlike some other religions, Jew doesn't wash off. So it sticks. But for those of you wondering, and you can use it when you play the home game, is it anti-Semitic? You can use these rules, so that you know for yourself. Criticizing Israel's policies is not anti-Semitic. Criticizing the Jews is anti-Semitic, because the Jews are very different people in very different places, believing very different things, doing very different things. So, do you see the difference, motherfuckers? And people like to act like you can't. And this was part of the bullshit McCarthyist attacks on Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. Basically, the UK did to Jeremy Corbyn what the US did to Bernie Sanders, except instead of using Russia, they used Jew hater, right. and they kind of crushed his career. But basically, he was critical of Israel, and he'd either supported or allowed for people who were speaking on Palestinian rights, Palestinian justice, those kind of things. And all of that is not anti-Semitic. It is saying a country which happens to be an apartheid state is harming other people. Israel is the oppressor, and the Palestinians are the oppressed. And you are perfectly fine in criticizing Israel, and you're perfectly fine in saying that you want to support BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction a country that is an apartheid state. It was done against South Africa to much success, and many people are supporting it against Israel now, and it's having an impact. And so that's the difference. And if you the term Zionist confuses a lot of people, because a lot of awful human beings like to use the term Zionist, and they are anti-Semitic, but they're not. That term is not anti-Semitic. It means supporters of the Jewish state. But you get into a shady area where some anti-Semites will not say the Jews are running the world. They'll run around going, the Zionists are running the world, because they know it's easier to say that. But so you could still be anti-Semitic. You got to look at the eyes. If the eyes are going like this as they do it, then, if the eyes bulge out as they say, the Zionists, then, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Then, because it is, there are this, because there are anti-Semites that are critical of the Israeli government, and they are for crazy reasons. The Zionist banking, again, the Zionist banking industry. It's like, well, hold on. But yeah, to be critical of Israeli policy and Netanyahu is a right-wing leader. He's a right-wing government that is in power. It's totally okay to be critical of them. And also then, as a guy that's not Jewish, the two things that pop to mind, first of all, are when I'm told, oh, Graham, you don't get it. It's too complicated. And I'm patted on the head as, oh, you little goy, you don't understand it. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Oh, dude, there was a great Onion headline for that. They said Palestinian who just had her family killed with a bomb is comforted to know that the issue is quite complicated.
Quite complicated. Well, it's funny. I found this organization a year or so ago, and I've covered it. I even played a clip of it yesterday or the day before. Breaking the Silence is ex-Israeli soldiers coming forward. And if you want to go, it's breakingthesilence.com.il. And it's ex-Israeli soldiers. And one of the first interviews I watched on that website was this guy going, yeah, that's a bullshit trope that they say, oh, it's not complicated. We're oppressing them and it's not right. It's ex-Israeli soldiers who feel bad and guilty of how they were raised. They're like, you're propagandized to believe the Palestinians are less than us as Israelis. You're taught it's okay. This one ex-female soldier gave a story about shooting this old Palestinian man's sheep. And it was like, they were laughing and it was like a video game, and she just felt really awful about it. So I'm always like, whenever I get that, like, oh, it's complicated, I go, okay, Tell the ex-Israeli soldier they don't get it. You can tell that to me, and okay, I've never been to Israel and I'm not Jewish, and okay. I want you to say that. I want you to say that to an ex-Israeli soldier. I want to see that. I'd like to live stream that conversation, quite honestly, and see how that shakes out. So that's what
yeah, no, you're making great points. And it's funny because as they say, oh, it's complicated. The truth is, if you dig into it more, it just gets worse. It gets uglier. Yeah. Like if you start to learn the facts about Gaza and the facts that it's incredibly hard to find clean water there. They often only have 4 hours of electricity a day because Israel cuts off their electricity. They can't get out for many things or get supplies in. The best coverage the best coverage of this I've seen was Abby Martin's film Killing Gaza, which she just made free on YouTube. So after
Gaza Fights for Freedom.
Sorry, Gaza Fights for Freedom. Killing Gaza was Dan Cohen's, I think. So you should watch both. Gaza Fights for Freedom, which is now free on YouTube. So everybody should watch it after this.
And the other point I want to bring up is someone who's like, I was raised Jewish. We were raised to support Israel no matter what. I'm like, yeah, I get that. And they're like, oh, you don't understand. Really? No, I was raised Irish Catholic. I was told the Catholic Church is never, I mean, you want to know what it's like being Irish Catholic in a seriously devout Irish Catholic home? If you came home as a kid and said the priest touched me and molested me, you got slapped in the face because the priest was as powerful as God. So I have a real good understanding of being raised in an environment where you're told crazy bullshit and you just believe it. So I'm no longer a Catholic for the fact that they, and again, similar type language, few bad apples. No. The Vatican covered that up.
Dude, it even blew my mind as much as I know about it. You know the movie Spotlight?
Yes.
They get to the end and they scroll through all the cities that had, priests that were moved around or arrested or whatever else. It's like every city in America. The list just keeps going and going and going and going.
It's every city in America. It's all throughout Europe. In the UK, New Zealand, Australia. One of the things they would do too is they would then ship these pedophile priests to like third world countries in Africa and stuff like that, and they would cover it up. And then if you watch the movie Spotlight's amazing, and then if you watch the documentary series The Keepers is a specific in I think Baltimore. But this is a thing the Catholic Church has done repeatedly, and they hire. So this woman in The Keepers had repressed memories come forward of she went to a Catholic school and being raped at this Catholic school by priests, and the Catholic Church hired lawyers and experts to say that repressed memories aren't accurate; they're not real. And so it's the same sort of, they're spending money, and then it's that same thing too. I mean, there's that scene in Spotlight where he's at some Catholic charities. And they go, hey, look at all the good look at all the good work that the Catholic Church has done. Oh, that makes it okay to rape kids and cover it up. Totally cool. It's just like, hey, Hamas, sent some homemade rocket. You mean in response to the 15 fucking laser guided missiles you bought from the US? That's the same thing. I'm just tired of it. So if you grew up defending things, like I just I'm so fed up with this. I'm going to support my team no matter what. You're a fucking sucker. You're a dumb sucker. So if you I have a joke in my act. I used to make fun of the Catholic Church in my act. And if it offends you, if you're a Catholic, hey, Graham, I would say go to your local confessional, say, dear Father, for I have sinned. I've committed the sin of still practicing Catholicism. So wake up, stop supporting Israel. They're fucking hurting people. America sucks. It's fucking setting the world on fire. And don't drink Lipton green tea because it's full of bullshit.
All very well said. Couple of quick government secrets to throw in there. I do bits on it as well on the priest scandal and shit. Whatever the report was a couple years ago, it was a Pennsylvania grand jury report found that 300 priests across Pennsylvania had molested 1,000 or over 1,000 children. And I was like, you know, the bit I do in my act is like, you know, that's just the kids that came forward as adults. So that's not even the actual. And I was like, and so why is the church still a thing? Like, how many thousands of kids have to be molested or raped before an organization is shut down? I would argue it is 1,000 kids. That is it. You get 1,000.
It's crazy, man. It's just like,
but no, it's so fucked up that it keeps going. And if you can, well, hold on, I gotta share it first. You were talking about like what they're doing even today, and this just came out last year. Do you see it now?
yes.
This just came out, well, 2019. Catholic Church spent $10.5 million to lobby against legislation that would benefit victims of child sex abuse.
And this is the same, this is insanity. And it's the same insanity that AIPAC does. And honestly, if you're a Catholic or Jewish or pro-Israel or whatever, and you really believe in these things, wouldn't you of all people want them to act better? Like, wouldn't you, if you're like, you know, I grew up, I'm Jewish, I'm proud of my faith, I really support Israel, and what Israel is doing to Palestine is offensive to me, and it goes against what Judaism is. So I am going to speak up and say this is wrong. And rather than I'm just going to defend my team. I hate that defend my team shit. I hate it. It's so stupid. It's small-minded. And it's why apes working together in the jungle are better than us. So it's, and because I've heard Catholics say this. I've heard this blind, we're going to just blindly follow the Catholic Church, and hey, you can't say that. Really? I can't say that. I can't say that. You're just mad because I'm calling out your bullshit. And then rather than using critical analysis and going, wow, maybe I need to reevaluate. And come from a different point of view. I've had to do a lot of reevaluating in the last couple of years as a white male, going, man, there is way more areas of white privilege that I didn't realize I had that I really need to own up to. Not the least of which is I got pulled over in high school by the cops for being a juvenile delinquent. I got a slap on the wrist because we were a bunch of white kids in Evanston, Illinois, where the uncle and father of Jacob Blake, we all went to the same high school. So had they been pulled over, we all know that it gets treated differently. So like, if you can't recognize this and you can't look at your own society or culture or religion and go, man, this ain't right, and you're just going to blindly defend it, you're in a cult. You're in a cult. So I don't know what to tell you if you're in a cult. You're just as crazy as the MAGA hat wearer, just as crazy. And it's just not as overt. And I don't know, maybe we should just have you lobotomized and just turn you into a worker because you can't use your brain correctly. So you shouldn't have that much equipment in your head.
I'm down for that. Yeah. It's a good call.
I'm sorry. Today's episode got a little ranty, but
note to self: only bring up the Catholic Church if you're ready for Graham to be wound up.
Literally, let's talk about Mossad. You want me to weave this one in? Oh, Jay, whose dad worked for Mossad? Wait a minute. Oh, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad worked for Mossad. Weird.
True. And Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, what was his name again?
I don't know. Johnny Maxwell.
Frankie Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad got the equivalent of an Israeli royal funeral. Like they gave him like a grand Israeli funeral.
Yeah. And is she going to get that? I mean, I'm just tired of people in power abusing their power. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a cop. I don't care if it's a church or religion or a government or the billionaire ruling class. I'm really done with it, man. I'm just done. And if you can't say this is wrong and stand up, then you have no soul. So you are the Diet Lipton green tea of the world.
Yeah, something I talked about on Redacted tonight. Well, it airs tonight. Is people want to, and it's what you're saying basically. Is people want to claim, oh, Biden's being progressive because he said people deserve $15 minimum wage or whatever. And I'm like, look, that dude and his administration, as well as Trump and Obama and et cetera, crossed a moral line. Okay. They are fine with bombing fucking innocent people around the world, fine with obliterating children, fine with what Israel's doing, fine with the tens of thousands dying from our economic wars on Venezuela or Iran or other countries. And if they're going to do all that, I don't give a fuck what else they do. I'm not celebrating them. It's like, you don't, like, if someone's fucking strangling a child, but they're also, like literally like strangling to death, killing a kid, but in the other hand, they're selling churros. You don't just go up and go, yeah, I'll take a couple churros. And they go, here you go. And then they kill the kid and they're like, here's the churros. And like, would you do that? Or would you be like, wait, you just killed a fucking kid? And so if their response is, yeah, there's nothing to do with the churros, then you're going to be like, oh, okay, good point. Good point. This is excellent. I'm going to tell everybody else to check out this kiosk. Like, no, so they've crossed a moral line. It's like I'm not fucking supporting mass murderers.
I know they're mass murder. It's really, I mean, it's literally like, well, the reason I voted for Ted Bundy over Jeffrey Dahmer was Bundy didn't eat his victims. He's not a monster. He just bashed their heads in and lied about it and defended himself like a crazy person, but he didn't eat them. I mean, come on, Lee.
No, that's creepy. That's creepy.
That's creepy. Being a serial killer, I mean, hey, that's the cost of doing business. There's two sides. It's complicated. Ted Bundy murdering people is complicated, but he didn't eat, at least he didn't eat them.
No. And by the way, one more headline we should get to. This is from 2018 about Bernie Sanders when he was on the campaign trail. Israel demanded a correction from Bernie Sanders. They wanted him to correct his statement by saying they had only killed 532 Palestinian children in the summer of 2014. Because he had said that 10,000 Palestinians had been killed. And they said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because it turned out it was 10,000 injured. And they said, whoa, we only killed 532 Palestinian children. 532 in a summer. And this is people living in an open air prison. They can't escape. The fuck? It's the crazy. It's like hey, cops kill unarmed white people too. Like, it's that thing of like, it's like if you said, Graham, you broke into my home, you vandalized everything, you smashed stuff, you stole money, you hacked my computer, you emptied my bank accounts, you ate my food, and then you stole my car. And I went, whoa, Lee, I didn't eat your food. Hey, come on, pal. Let's not cross a line here. Like, it's like, I didn't touch the food.
And it's such a like calculated distraction. Like, this is what defense attorneys do when they know they have a guilty client and they're just trying to like get you off of, like, let's argue about this other minor thing or this other thing rather than the actual atrocities that was committed. You know what I mean? It's now we're talking about, oh, Bernie Sanders should have said 10,000 injured. And that was a huge crime that Bernie Sanders committed. Yeah, we killed 532 and injured 10,000. But Bernie Sanders just got his words wrong on a campaign speech that he gives 5 of those a day. And he's in his 80s. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Or 70s or whatever. Anyway, what else? Is there more for us to talk about?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I highly recommend, if people want to learn more about Gaza, they watch Gaza Fights for Freedom and Killing Gaza. Both great movies with far more detail than we have time to get into. But something else that always blew my mind that you never hear people talk about is that 50% of Palestinians are under 18. So it's a nation of children, like largely children, and they're all being shot at with fucking missiles that the United States is paying for. $10 million a day the United States gives to Israel. But, they can't cover your health care, but they can give that to Israel a day.
Sorry, how are we going to pay for healthcare? Healthcare are ponies. Healthcare and free college are ponies. But we have money for Israel, by the way, who still will not acknowledge the Armenian genocide. If that's not the biggest hypocrisy I've ever heard, they won't acknowledge the Armenian genocide. Because what are they afraid of? Then they lose their victimhood from their genocide, or what does that mean? I mean, I'd love to see Israel.
You don't want other genocides competing with you for the limelight, like you want if you've collected like the Genocide of the Year award, you don't want some other guy being like, "Hey, what about us?" You're like, "Shut up."
Hey, Israel, is colonialists stealing Native American land? Is that complicated? There are two sides to that, and how that happened. Is that you don't understand it? Like, walk me through that. Anyway, this this is why I really had to drink green tea before the episode.
Did that help, or did that hurt?
It did help, because I was like, this morning I was just like going through my routine having breakfast, and I was like, we got to do the show. And I knew what we were going to talk about. I'm like, I know I'm going to laugh with Lee, but I also know I'm
going to dig into what priests have done.
I'm going to really show why you shouldn't be in favor of Israel or the Catholic Church. And I'm going to draw those connections because I like doing that. And I wove a little Epstein in, so I knew it was going to be
a... That'll give you a jump in your step tomorrow. I got Epstein into the episode.
If that's not a can of green tea, Lee, I don't know what is. So yeah, that was a good episode. And
how excited to jump out of bed were you when you found out that Bill Gates is getting divorced because of his connections to Epstein?
Oh my God. I was like, I got like 15 text messages. One of them was from you. Everyone was like, dude. And I was like, here we go. I was like, yes. And all of these mainstream news outlets reported that was one of the reasons. So someone leaked within Melinda Gates' camp that's one of the reasons. And she's been feeling this way since 2019. And yet I had a video pulled talking about Bill Gates, and I have a copyright strike.
Well, because it was fake news when you did it. When CNN does it, that makes it legit.
That's right. It's because I don't wear a sport coat like Brian Williams and get excited about war. That's all. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why it just doesn't happen to Kyle Kalinske and Jimmy Dores, because they wear nicer shirts.
Yeah, you got to wear a fedora or whatever it is Jimmy wears.
Fedora?
Whatever that hat is he has on sometimes.
Oh, Jimmy's hat?
Yeah, Jimmy's hat. That's what makes people know it's legit.
Well, he looks like a guy like handicapping horses. You know what I mean? When he wears that
hat. He's like, that one's a mutter.
That's just like Gypsy's pride in the third. I'll give you 4-1. Like, that's what it looks like. Well, yeah. Well, I was excited.
Oh man, you have Jimmy interviewing Greg Palast, and that would be quite the battle of the hats.
Battle of the hats.
I don't know who would win that one.
It's the battle of the hats between Greg Palast and Jimmy Dore. Hat on hat. Who will survive?
Hot hat on hat action.
2 hats enter, 1 leaves.
2 hats, 1 cap.
Oh my God. Well, all right, buddy. What do you got cooking? I guess we're
yeah, I think we did it. I got a new episode of Redacted tonight. Everybody can check that out. The first portion goes up at youtube.com/redacted tonight, but the full episode's at portable.tv. If you just go to portable.tv and scroll down, you'll see the Redacted Tonight section. But all my stuff's at leecamp.com. And I'd say that's the main thing. Check out my other podcast, Common Censored, as well.
Lee Camp, one of the hardest working people in indie media, did Redacted today, did an RT segment, and then you're doing government secrets. That's
and then I'm gonna hang myself. So I got the noose ready to go.
Well, live stream it so you get good clicks or whatever. You know,
and title it "Breaking News."
Public suicides, I've always think they're fantastic. Like I've always
I always think they're fantastic.
Because I think like wouldn't that it's just as an entertainer, like that's how you close out a show. Hey
Dude.
Lee, before we go, don't forget. Boom, like just
dude, there was some I want to say kid, I think he was in his 20s or something, but did an open mic. I think comedy, did an open mic night in like Oregon, and then gets to the end of it and starts stabbing himself.
Oh, Jesus.
And he did succeed at killing himself, but many people thought for like a full like 30 seconds or something that it was part of like some comedy bit.
Yeah, and he had fake blood or whatever. Yeah. It was like, haha. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to go out. That is a closer. Like, you know, I can guarantee you at the end of that, he wasn't like, oh, I should have done that in the middle.
Oh, do you think like when he died and whatever the afterlife is, he's like, oh, I messed up the wording on that.
And my delivery was just slightly off. I should have paused between the second and third knife cut.
Or did he just remember some other bit? He's like, oh, I should have done the cat food bit before it.
I knew I forgot something.
Damn
2 bits before the stabbing, I was going to talk about my cat. How she always licks her butt. Damn it.
I was going to do cat food and then that bus driver bit and then murder myself. And I went right from bus driver. Damn it. Shit.
I was too excited to get to the ending. Yeah.
This is one of the, I'll just tell this story real quick because it's really fun. Is the first Christmas after I got divorced, a bunch of friends of mine on Christmas Day were like, hey, Graham, everyone was inviting me. They're like, we're worried about you're alone. I'm like, fine. So one friend, they're very sweet. One buddy of mine had me over and he does a breakfast every morning. He like makes waffles and his whole family and in-laws were over there. It was really nice. Another buddy like come by during the day and I hung out. And then my really good friend, Tim, and his wife, Leah, who I've known for years, and they're both very funny. And I've known Tim for years. And he's like, we've written scripts together and, you know, he's a writer and we just had a great night. We laughed. They're both vegans. We had this vegan Christmas dinner and we just laughed. And I was driving home and I thought, really, going through divorce sucks. And this could have been really, but I got really great friends and this is awesome. And it was so great to see everybody. And then I hadn't seen my friend Tim's wife and forever. We laughed and had a great time. And then I started, this is only a comedian would come up with this. I thought, wouldn't it be hilarious if
I know where this is going.
If I kill myself and then blame them in the suicide note, and just for the rest of their lives, like we laughed all night. There was no sign. We had no idea. I don't know what we said.
I don't even know that you'd need the note. If they just found out he went straight into a bridge abutment the moment he got out of here, like, I don't know that you need the note.
Just we laughed. He wasn't bummed out. I mean, everything was. I don't know what. Like,
maybe we shouldn't have told him to try the fruitcake. Maybe that was.
I thought he liked vegan ice cream. I didn't know. I mean, nothing. I don't get it. I don't know. And that's like that would be the. I laughed. I drove home
and comedians are so like fucking in to their shit that you were probably thinking like it would almost be worth it.
It would almost be worth it. Like this would be the best joke forever because for the rest of their lives they would not know why, and that would make me laugh for eternity.
And that would make me happy inside of whatever void I'm floating in.
Whatever neutral zone or whatever happens when you die, I will be laughing at that. So anyway, in addition to following Lee Camp and all of his stuff, you can go to GrahamElwood.com where you can watch. Actually, my movie Afghanistan is available at rockfin.com/GrahamElwood. And at GrahamElwood.com, you get all my stuff. I have a show. I'm headlining my first time in 15 months at the Blue Note in Waikiki. So if you're come on out to Oahu and celebrate my first headlining set, doing 2 shows. Yeah, I'm excited. So all that's at GrahamElwood.com. And then join Rockfin so you can watch Lee and I on Rockfin. And that's our show, right?
All right,
Government Secrets. End of episode 41.
Thanks a lot, man. I'll see you later.
All right, buddy. Have a good weekend.
You too.